Coming up on Global Business, fostering stronger China-Vietnam relations. Ahead of Chinese President Xi Jinping's state visit to Vietnam, we'll take a closer look at the deep ties between the two nations. China's headline consumer inflation gauge edges lower in November due to moderating food and energy prices, but core CPI and services inflation rise. And a bumper harvest. Despite being hit by a series of bad weather events this year, China sees a record high in grain output. And welcome everyone to Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong here in Beijing. Well, Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to pay a state visit to Vietnam from December 12th to 13th. It's the first such visit since 2017. Now, this year marks the 15th anniversary of the China-Vietnam Comprehensive Strategic Cooperative Partnership, and President Xi's visit is expected to further strengthen relations. CGTN's Dong Xue has more from Hanoi.
We arrived ahead of the visit, and I hit on the street and asked the people about their expectations about this trip. Well, I was surprised. Not only they are aware of Xi's visit, but they're also calling for strengthening cooperation between China and Vietnam, the two socialist countries. Having said that, this is the first time for President Xi to Vietnam in 6 years. Well, given the close and strong relationship, these two had established a comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership since 15 years ago. That is the highest diplomatic regard of Vietnam. Well, President Xi has a very ambitious goal this time. He is expected to cement ties with his Vietnamese counterparts to strengthening cooperation in political, trade, economy, cultural, people-to-people exchanges. And also, the high expectations are on the two sides will elevate its diplomatic relations to a higher degree, and said that, over the next 2 days, President Xi is also expected to meet with the Vietnamese General Secretary Ron Phu Trong and the President Vo Van Chong and the Prime Minister, as well as the Congressional Chairman. So we'll just have to wait and see if there will be concrete deliverables after the meetings.
Now, China has been Vietnam's biggest trading partner for many years, and Vietnam is China's largest trading partner in ASEAN. Bilateral trade came in at nearly $235 billion in 2022. That is up 2.1% on a yearly basis. Now, that marked the second consecutive year that bilateral trade surpassed $200 billion. That figure is set to surpass the $200 billion benchmark again this year, reaching $185 billion already in the first 10 months of this year. A cooperation in green development in the digital economy are new points of growth between the two countries. Projects like the Hanoi Metro Line 2 and Vietnam's largest waste-to-energy plant were both built by Chinese companies and have greatly benefited the lives of local people. The two countries also have jointly promoted the implementation of RCEP and the construction of the China-ASEAN Free Trade Zone version 3.0. Now, Vietnam spends about 6% of its GDP on infrastructure, making it the leading country in ASEAN for infrastructure investment. However, experts maintain that the country has still a gap between its current infrastructure and its aspirations of being a fast-growing economy. Our correspondent Miro Liu takes us on a ride on Hanoi's urban transit journey. Take a look.
The rapid increase of private vehicles, along with underdeveloped infrastructure, has caused complicated travel conditions in Hanoi. Data shows there are 7.8 million vehicles, including cars and motorbikes, for a population of 8 million. How to increase the capacity of public transport services has become a top priority for policymakers in Vietnam as the country's economy continues to boom. The crown jewel of the city's public transport development is the Hanoi Metro. Open to service in November 2021, it is the first rapid transit system in Vietnam.
The advantage of the urban railway has been confirmed through its operation. It's fast, mass, civilised, and a modern means of transport.
Built at a cost of $868 million with funding from Chinese assistance, The Cát-Linh-Hà-Đông metro line runs more than 13 kilometers and has 12 stations. The system will eventually consist of 8 lines with a total length of 318 kilometers.
Studies and reality show that only by developing urban railways into a network, considering it a backbone and other means of transport such as buses, Grab and BRT, acting as means of support, will we be able to completely solve the problems of congestion, accidents and environmental pollution of urban traffic.
Experts believe Vietnam's future economic growth will depend on its infrastructure, and they don't need to look far for inspiration.
China have done a great job in urbanization, especially developing their transit, public transit in their, every city. I think 47 cities in China have developed a great metro system. And within, 2 decades, that's amazing to see China have increased their length of metro system from a very small number to now nearly 10,000 kilometers.
Professor Wu says infrastructure building will have a direct economic impact. 1 less hour spent in traffic jams is 1 more hour for productivity. Mira Lu, CGTN, Hanoi.
And for more on China-Vietnam relations, I want to bring in Professor Zhang Gong from the University of International Business and Economics. So, Professor Gong, the relationship between China and Vietnam, this is not just a comprehensive strategic partnership, but it's actually billed as a comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership. So, talk to us about the uniqueness of this relationship between China and Vietnam.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me, Michael. It's always nice to see you. I think the difference in only one word, it doesn't really, make a very big difference in my view, other than, of course, that, the 2 countries' relationship emphasizes the cooperation part. And I think the reason for that is that, in the past, we had our fair share of difficulties and challenges in the past. But over the last 30 years or so, I think the Vietnam relationship has really prospered, especially against the backdrop of massive investment coming from into Vietnam. Vietnam really stands to benefit from the overall trend of some industries migrating out of China, especially in the oil and labor-intensive manufacturing industries. And I think this is actually a very good thing for both countries, which also results in large trade between the 2 countries. And you've just reported that China is indeed Vietnam's largest trading partner. And so I think this relationship really sets the balance of the bilateral relationship between the 2 countries.
So, Professor Gong, China is the first country, though, with which Vietnam has built this comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership. So how do you view the significance of President Xi's state visit to Vietnam this time around?
Yeah, I think it's long overdue. I think it's a very healthy thing for President Xi to visit an important and also a rising economy, which also borders upon China in the south. And we understand that Vietnam is quite important as a geopolitical card in the calculation of Washington's strategy towards China. It is what's called the economic framework for this area, and it wants to see more supply chain sourcing from Vietnam, and which is okay, I think. But overall, I think, as I said, Vietnam benefits a lot from China's economic boom, as well as China's industrial upgrade, actually. So on the other hand, I hope that Vietnam also cooperates with China, as this relationship name indicates, in terms of, in the area of political area, in terms of foreign policy. We had some disputes in the South China Sea over a few tolls in the South China Sea, and I think these thorny issues should be resolved bilaterally and peacefully, particularly not involving another third-party country in this case.
And Professor Gong, we were just reporting on agriculture and infrastructure development as two areas where Beijing and Hanoi see strong cooperation. Which other areas of cooperation do you see in terms of the greatest potential for the two sides to foster stronger partnerships?
I think in the economic integration, regional integration area, as I said, I think there's a overall very strong trend for more investment, outward foreign direct investment from China into Vietnam. And this brings together with it a lot of trade opportunities because, many Chinese companies operating in Vietnam are still buying things or sourcing things from China. I think relationship in benefits and I think another is an infrastructure. Vietnam is a booming economy and it needs infrastructure. And this is one area China play an important role. As China has done, for example, in every country, in Laos, in Indonesia, in Asia, I think.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Sorry about some of those audio issues there. Professor Zhang Gong from the University of International Business and Economics joining us there. A look now at Vietnam's food exports, where data shows that from January to October of this year, Vietnam's fruit and vegetable exports reached some $4.9 billion US. Now, that marks a 78% jump compared to the same period last year. Among Vietnam's export destinations, China continues to hold the largest market share, accounting for some 66% of Vietnamese fruit and vegetable exports. Our Olivia He took a trip to a Chinese supermarket in search of Vietnamese food products. Take a look.
Hello everyone, it's Olivia here. Today I'm going to take on a challenge in this supermarket. I'm going to see if I can successfully fill my shopping trolley with all Vietnamese food. Let's go check it out.
Hello.
To ace this challenge, I've got a special guest to give me a hand. We start off in the durian section, where I'm a huge fan, but not so sure about him. Next, we move on to the jackfruit, which I personally think smells just as amazing as durian.
对，这款的话是草莓口味。
And now he's introducing me to some Vietnamese cheese. After filling my trolley, I can't wait to try out this food and discover the stories behind them. It's so sweet, so nice. 确定不来这儿吗？太好吃了。So I heard that durian is typically imported from Thailand, and I'm curious why the ones at Hema are from Vietnam.
榴莲呢，其实一款季节
Durian is one unique fruit that you can only get in certain seasons. So what we do is we really pick the best spot to import it from depending on the time of the year. And this year, we've gone ahead and set up a whole base in Vietnam just so we can make sure our customers get that fresh durian fix even during this specific season.
In the first 6 months of 2023, Vietnam's durian exports reached $876 million, marking a 19 times increase compared to the same period last year. Notably, approximately $835 million worth of durians were exported to China.
目前的话，榴莲和菠萝蜜是在盒马非常受欢迎的。
I believe that with ongoing policy support and improvement of the supply chain, a greater variety of high-quality Vietnamese fruits and unique foods will be introduced to domestic consumers in the future. It's still to come here on Global Business. China's headline consumer inflation gauge edges lower in November due to moderating food and energy prices, but core CPI and services inflation rise.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global Business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
Well, China's main gauge of inflation, the Consumer Price Index, dropped slightly in November, and the Factory Gate Producer Price Index saw a further decline. Official data shows CPI edging down by 0.5% in November compared to a year ago. Now, that dip was attributed to food and energy prices. Excluding food and energy prices, so the core CPI, well, that index increased by 0.6% year on year, maintaining a moderate rise consistent with the previous month. Service inflation, meanwhile, also rose. The Producer Price Index declined by 3% year on year in November as weaker international oil prices dampens upstream costs. Well, in an effort to boost consumption, China in the past 2 years has promoted the building of what's called International Consumption Center cities. Now, Shanghai, being one of them, has become the first city of choice for international brands entering China and for domestic brands to incubate new brands and to test out new business models. Here in Beijing and neighboring Tianjin have upgraded and renovated a number of traditional business districts. Meanwhile, down south in Guangzhou, that city is fostering more consumption by carrying out a variety of exhibition projects and creating more ways to spend. And over in Chongqing, the megacity has focused on businesses staying open later into the night to spur demand. Each city has explored their own unique characteristics in a bid to strengthen the role of consumption in local economic development. And in other headlines, we're tracking across China at this hour. According to China's Statistics Bureau, the country's grain output rose by 1.3% year on year to a record high of 695 million tons in 2023. Now, this is the 9th straight year that China has registered a grain harvest of over 650 million tons. China and Australia will facilitate customs clearance for commodities trading via certified operators with authorized economic operator status starting from December 14. And in November, China's auto production hit a historic high of some 3,093,000 vehicles, with new energy vehicle production and sales both exceeding 1 million units for the first time in a month. Well, startups and private enterprises make up some of China's leading innovators and entrepreneurial breakthroughs. Now, this has led to the private economy also playing a significant role in the country's economic development. But as these companies face both domestic and international headwinds, localized financial policies aim to bolster support for them. Our Omar Khan has more.
Autonomous robotics, artificial intelligence, and advanced manufacturing, all under one roof of a company here in Guangzhou. For the past 38 years, Li Gong has transformed itself from focusing on traditional manufacturing to being a leader in cutting-edge technology, serving multiple clients in a variety of industries and sectors. Li Gong believes that the business and policy ecosystem they find themselves in has been a catalyst to not only their success, but other SMEs.
We feel the industry and IT environments in Guangzhou, alongside government departments, have provided a lot of support. One of the departments has a plan called the Four Modernizations Platform for Empowering Enterprises. One of the goals is to have SMEs help other SMEs with digital transformation. In turn, there will be government subsidies provided to us. Another aspect of support is the municipal government takes SMEs to various universities for recruitment drives.
But with targeted policies facing off against continued economic turbulence, can the private sector play an even greater role?
I don't think there's any pressure. With the recognition of private enterprises in a country, we can succeed, and we've always been successful in the past. Facing future challenges, private companies have better vitality compared to large-scale companies. Our ability to remain flexible and make decisions are some of our key characteristics when it comes to changing environments.
Economists also recognize the tremendous potential of the entrepreneurial spirit in driving economic growth.
Private enterprises, they're fueling growth here in China. Do you think that's a direction we should be going in, or do you still think involvement from larger companies, especially SOEs, should play a major factor in China's economic development and growth?
The private economy is a backbone of the Chinese economy. They were saying that the private economy contributes 50% of government tax revenues, 60% of the total GDP growth in China, 70% of innovative productions, 80% of the job employment, and 90% of the number of the company in China is private companies.
Many will view this year as the first to fully emerge from the shadow of the pandemic. Analysts will also be keen to see how the world's second largest economy plans to map out its future in 2024. Omar Khan, CGTN, Guangzhou.
Now, when you browse social media, you're going to find millions of short videos about the mega city of Chongqing, many of which have now gone viral. So let's take a closer look at why people are so curious about this vibrant, eclectic city.
Chongqing is one of the biggest cities in China and the only one of China's 4 municipalities in the southwest. It's a unique place that blends old and new and the man-made with the natural environment. The food from Chongqing is known for its strong and spicy taste. Hot pot is one of the main specialties and is a must-eat during any visit.
I'm from Hunan province. This time I came here and ate a hot pot called my friend. I should say it is indeed a young city.
Chongqing has maintained its top spot on the list of top 10 Chinese cities with nighttime economic influence for 3 consecutive years and created a raft of nighttime consumption landmarks such as Hongyadong, Raffles City, and 9th Street and Ziwei Road. In 2023, Chongqing launched over 200 special nighttime activities, which have attracted over 200,000 businesses and more than 160 million consumers. The total sales volume has reached 7.3 billion RMB.
Chongqing is so popular in TikTok, and we are very welcome. Foreigners come here to experience Chongqing's nightlife.
The 9th Street holds the crown when it comes to nightlife in Chongqing. You won't see many people here during the day, but as soon as night falls, it turns into a vibrant hub full of people.
I didn't visit a lot of cities around China, but Chongqing is the most beautiful city I've been in China. It's good, especially the street of the bar. In October, how many people on the street, especially on this area? It's almost impossible to walk.
In 2022, the GDP of Chongqing ranked 4th after Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenzhen. Somewhat different from the flourishing Shanghai and traditional Beijing, Chongqing has its own unique character. Life here is slower and more laid back. Every day, many people can be seen drinking tea with friends along the riverbank, playing mahjong, or strolling around the city. Nicola came here to introduce pizza to Chongqing, but later he felt that Chongqing was an interesting city to settle down in.
Because I have also a chance to see other cities of China, but Chongqing gives me kind of feeling that it's different to other cities. Because Chongqing is a big metropolis, because the food, the local food, is very strong. But I see that Chongqing people is changing very fast. And I see how now they move to really Western, and that is what we are doing. It's something that attracts me a lot.
As an important indicator of the international model of urban consumption, flagship stores in Chongqing have increased rapidly. To date, over 1,700 international and national brands have established themselves in the city. And in the first 3 quarters, 341 flagship stores of renowned brands were introduced, with a year-on-year growth of 216%. Ziwei Road is famous for young people.
Ziwei Road is a business district with a very vibrant vibe that is frequented by residents and tourists. Our shop is unique as it takes you to Italy and the Mediterranean Sea without going abroad. We have guests coming from Italy, the United States, the UK, South Korea, and Japan.
Unlike other cities, Mount Chongqing has a unique culture in it. I think the new rising very small business shops are what makes Chongqing extraordinary.
With the approval of the State Council, Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Tianjin, and Chongqing will take the lead in developing international consumption center cities. In the past 10 months, the total volume of retail sales of consumption goods in Chongqing increased by 7.6% compared to the same period in the previous year.
We will continue to take advantage of the terrific night scenes and the characteristics of the so-called AD Magic City of Chongqing to create new night scenarios for customers, to nurture new business models and hold special consumption-themed activities, and to nurture more local brands to be popular with customers. Let the city be true to its name of a sleepless city and international consumption center.
Meanwhile, discussions at the UN's climate change conference of COP28 in Dubai have focused on providing support for businesses in the blue economy. But entrepreneurs say these have barely scratched the surface. Our Radhika Bajaj has more.
As sea levels rise and the very composition of ocean water changes, the blue economy is emerging as an important frontier of climate action. Broadly, it is defined as the sustainable use of ocean resources to benefit economies, livelihoods, and ocean ecosystem health. Oceans provide over 30 million jobs and supply a vital source of protein to over 3 billion people. UN Sustainable Development Goals include 7 targets for a sustainable ocean economy by 2030, but progress has been limited.
The blue economy hasn't been explored before. And so when we have unexplored regions or thematic spaces within industries, it's hard to get things started. So within the climate change space, the way how it's set up is that a majority of the resources, even though limited, is already segmented to land-related activities.
Those who are exploring this space are working at the grassroots level to solve both local and global problems. Whether it is turning seawater into pure water without harming the planet, or teaching local communities to run sea farms or regenerate coral reef, activities that create revenue while restoring the ocean. But often, work in the blue economy is research and capital intensive, not aligned with the concept of quick return on investor money.
From ocean acidification to bleaching of coral reefs and a rise in seawater temperatures, the oceans of the Earth are undergoing severe effects of climate change. The blue economy is often spoken about, but entrepreneurs in the field say that there is a lack of awareness in investors when it comes to harnessing the power of the ocean to not just reverse climate effects, but also generate revenue.
At COP28, entrepreneurs say they are highlighting the importance of the blue economy and the immense potential it holds. While the millions promised in the Loss and Damage Fund have been encouraging, it eventually is about delivery.
It can be very headline driven. All people see are the trillions of dollars committed, but ultimately, how do those financial flows work? How does that money reach the people who are executing on the ground? What is the flow? How do you actually access that? So all of these very important questions have yet to be answered.
By some estimates, the blue economy could double in size to $3 trillion by 2030. And it can possibly deliver 21% of the greenhouse gas emission reductions needed to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2050. But for that to happen, the capital inflow in this space needs to be more than just a drop in the ocean. Radhika Bajaj, CGTN, Dubai.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong here in Beijing. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next time.